Ages ago I stood here pondering what course my quest would take. I'd hoped to never see this grotto again. If you crave vindication, you may look at that as my failure. All trials are behind you. Victory is yours, and I am beaten. Savor it while it lasts. I owe you that much. No evasive lies, but the bitter truth. The truth that what I am is more than a timeless relic of the void. The Dwemer provided me with the husk of an artificial god and an opportunity for reunification. But there can be no reunification without a certain kind of individual acting as an impetus. That person was you. If there was a particular chain of thought that led to my conception, the details are lost. You see, my existence long before meddling with the affairs of the Dwemer is littered with unfathomable allegory. The sparring of opposing concepts resulted in what you'd consider my birth. It was chaos in its most primal form. Ideas would morph into gods, and they into laws. Divinity passed me by. My essence is an assemblage of refuted beliefs. Combined, they are salaquine. They found the process of deducing my true nature attractive. Formulas were composed that equated to my being, but all were incorrect. They were fooled into believing my physical avatars became crippled when brought close to the void. That was a grave mistake. Of which do you speak? Following the Trinity Tower event, their souls were consumed by the crystal in the Dark Tower. Their hostile spirits walk the island. They attack you believing you are me. Revenge for what I did to them. I was not at the Battle of Red Mountain to see for myself. I imagine a similar fate befell them as those of this island. As for the events surrounding their disappearance, who's to say which of the tales are true and which are not? After what just transpired between us and the tower, perhaps the stories aren't so mutually exclusive as time would lead you to believe. The most discernible manifestation of a physical body I have. It is Numidium, the second of its kind known to have been built by the Dwemer. This one also had a name, Sky's Divide. In Dwemeris, it was called Salaquine. The Dwemer intended for my mortal avatar's essence to serve as the golem's heart. It does not function in the way I led them to believe. Matari and all my former avatars are soulless tendrils emanating from the void. To link one of them to such a profane creation as Sky's Divide is to open a window into the void itself. The crystal in the tower is both an ingenium and mantella, a soul harvester and the substitute for a divine heart respectively. Yes, through years of investigation and infiltration, I uncovered the secret the Dwemer were constructing in Red Mountain. The original plan was to take possession of a Numidium by presenting myself to the Dwemer, though not directly as to avoid suspicion of potential sabotage. I chose a reputable research center on the outskirts of Markarth, knowing of the association Vanshim had with Kagranak. Theirs was a competitive relationship. I expected to be delivered to Kagranak as a business gesture. Having an entire complex built for me was more than I could have hoped for. If you could manage such a thing, it would be nothing more than an inconvenience. As I said, Sky's Divide is only a part of what I am. The other remains secure in the void. A golem wasn't the only means of victory at my disposal. and not someone else? There were semi-qualified substitutes. Bosca was one of them. They're insufficient for making Sky's Divide fully functional. You were always top priority. It would be just another mobile landmass lacking the power to alter time. Its armaments, the Void constructs, are only suitable for traditional warfare. Not entirely. As long as the possibility was there, I consider it a success. Each activation of Numidium precedes an unbinding of linear time. In one instance, you did fall for my final trap. Another instance has you before me right now. Both can be said to have happened. It's your perception that limits you to believe only the one you're presently living through occurred. Events would still have gone forward. Inaction is supplanted by action. The hero of destiny must always come to face his adversary. I willfully mantled that role so we may meet, be it in this life or another. You may have escaped with your life today, but I much prefer the scenario in which you did fall. History is written by the victor, Dragonborn. As Numidium, I always win. Partly. Those simulations, you had no choice but to complete them. However, they were rigged to fulfill an additional function. You relived my memories. We became synchronized. It would have made the transition of your soul to me much smoother had you failed the final test. Since you denied me, there's no reason for Sky's Divide to remain bound to Nirn. My wish to be made one is an intrinsic urge. The price to be paid is the destruction of the world. Unfortunately for all of us, natural instincts are hard to overcome. There were several ways to reach apotheosis, aside from activating Sky's Divide. Defeat after defeat, all were closed off. Yet I can't simply lay waste to Nirn, because that too goes against my nature. And with that, we come to the crux of the matter. The reason for everything I do. For what we do. Celine, Istis, Matari, you. The original personalities of all my avatars shared a common trait that I've absorbed. Heroism. An encumbering trait, wouldn't you agree? There is only one solution to appease my clashing ambitions. If reality cannot be destroyed, it shall be transformed. The world will be saved not through conquest, but through cosmic deceit as Third Numidium. The end is approaching, Dragonborn, and the methods which you are accustomed to will not be enough to prevent it. One must operate outside of time and space to combat the threat that approaches. I will not let the future fall into the hands of traitors or madmen without direction. Mortals, gods, prophecy. The twin forces of creation have been locked in an endless war. It will end when the snake eats its tail. The cannibalization of Arbis. The laws of the world are turning against us. If they are not confronted head-on, there is no hope. Only one is worthy of being remembered, the hist toxin known as aerosap. Not the same, similar. Metamorphosis of Nirn can take many forms. Aerosap was the planned desecration of the tenets of war in exchange for hedonism. The transition would have been too abrupt for anyone except Project Purity. Their system of governance was already being drafted when their solution, my solution, went up in flames. Because the future it creates is not in my hands. The better question is, who will be delivering it to its new masters? You saw them walking on this island, and yet the truth has evaded you to this moment about what the Ashen really are. Their foregone sense of identity and purpose has been exploited since my life as Istis. The Sirens and the Golden Maidens, even Kaja. The Ashen have been manipulated into pledging their lives to those of us who must labor in the shadows as we wage war against the times. Crafting an entire people to embody an idea is a delicate form of warfare. It is one fought over generations. My allies happened to be artisans in warping the mind through words and collective thought. But I'm not here to share that lie, Dragonborn. In reality, the Ashen are my greatest followers. In me, they see a reflection of themselves, someone worth dying for. They are the lost children of Ionith. They are the heralds that will sing praises of Salaquine and elevate my position in the new pantheon. Do you wonder why I abandoned the Dwemer and Purity? It was because of their intellect, their tenacity to rebel spurred by independent critical thought. Virgil confirmed all my doubts in Project Purity. She sought to end the world without my say. It was an unforgivable betrayal. The Ashen have no agency. The best are fanatics, whose only motives are to destroy under a delusional sense of righteousness. Fanaticism is good. It is what I need. You underestimate what can be accomplished in 2 centuries. Belief in causes that align with my own dominates the Ashen way of life. Pamphlets have been distributed in recent years, celebrating the formation of Serenity's Sirens. Having those that remain in Akavir formally swear allegiance will be effortless, maybe uneventful. There will be virtually no change in their customs. Rebellion of a significant magnitude is highly unlikely at this stage. I told you the Sirens were wiped out to hide the fact I had ordered a culling of their ranks. Non-believers, beast, mare. The list was short and narrow in scope for who qualified for termination. The Sirens are advancing into the next phase. I have no need for potential traitors who will strain the organization's evolution. More purges will come, I'm sure, to lay to rest any prospect of insurrection. The Sirens have been a front for our operations in Tamriel. The Ashen will not make landfall on the continent until victory is imminent. People must not be led to believe a new Akaviri invasion is in their forecast. They were my enlightened few. I told them the breadth of my plans to a degree. Save for the knowledge that their people had been sold a lie, of course. Make no mistake, my maidens were always on my side. The bonds you formed with them were nothing more than superficial. I assigned them to your care when I suspected you'd be most vulnerable, having just lost the last of your reliable companions on this journey. Their orders were to spy on you and collect relevant information on your body movements so they'd be ready for combat. Akaviri were renowned as martial artists, and the maidens I handpicked had been put through extensive training using their ancient lore. The maidens had their methods. Sleeping with the opponent, as they told me, was a great way of knowing how she'd perform on the battlefield. Evidently, you didn't sleep with them enough. I'm not done with Xana yet. Her devotion to me and her friend the songstress was commendable. Maybe I will spare her in another life. They were a liability. To be frank, regardless of their combat skill, they were useless to me after you sealed your fate by sailing to the island. I would have disposed of them myself after today if you hadn't walked out of the tower alive. In the case of the sirens, a focal point for pity. If the sirens could be taught to use the Pinda's plight as an excuse for murder, they will have no qualms doing what will be asked of them soon. Nothing can get by you anymore. I've weighed the risks, Dragonborn. The bickering between man and mare is fruitless. Neither has proven themselves fit to rule, and one's path runs parallel to purity's. The beasts are too tribalistic, and the Ashen are too impotent to lead nations. They exist only to serve. One candidate remains, a foreign entity with deep-seated interest in Tamriel. Call it revenge, because the land was once theirs. The Septim dynasty's provocation guaranteed they would return someday. What better time than now, when Tamriel is at its weakest and most fractured state since they left? They call me Snake Charmer, for I managed to broker a treaty with the most cunning beasts of Nirn. The deal was signed with Istis's blood. The Ashen will pave the path for them, their own slaves. The Sayesi will only set foot on Tamriel's shores when the Ashen have succeeded. For the Sayesi, there will be no war. My Daedra seducer, Freya, would know all about my other pact. She has been my intermediary between the lords. I bargained with them, lost parts of myself, in exchange for their fickle word that they do not interfere. These sorts of pacts aren't out of the ordinary. Most believe I will fail. Some seek to stop me. I took great risk consulting two of them, Hermaeus Mora and Molag Bal, before I met Freya. None have yet to make good on their threats. I believe they seek to establish a second potentate, but these snakes are duplicitous. Pay credence to their actions and not to their words if you ever have the misfortune of meeting one. After ascension to a higher plane, impractical. What becomes of me following the Sayesi takeover is nearly indescribable. Imagine every thought and every deed be a realization of your mind. I will have become existence itself, and the Sayesi will continue to uphold that existence under their new order. It's uncertain. If all my Ashen sycophants are murdered after my ascension, the world would remain silent. There is no other option. Either the world dies, or it is given some semblance of hope in the hands of a new curator. I've worn 1,000 faces, and I have seen the structure of the universe. If there is no hero, there will be no event. The Elder Scrolls will be rewritten so we may be free. Even if you can't see it now, if you detest me to your core after what I've put you through, you must believe me just this once. Salvation lies in me. Who would believe your testimony? Your proof? Would it consist of Akaviri relics and esoteric texts with no author? Museum pieces? Your reputation moves meager factions. It cannot rally the splintered provinces of Tamriel. The threat to be faced is imperceptible. It takes root in the minds of the Ashen. Concern is easier to galvanize against something physical. The Thalmor. None would dare fight a war on two fronts. Not when the land they treasure is at stake. You'd be impressed how easy it is to change the opinions of those who believe you to be divine. They know of your excursion on Dimitri's ship and suspect your allegiance to his crew of savages. The Ashen do not know who they are fighting for. Their ways have been organized to serve me. To turn against that would be to reject everything they are. They will be as lost as they were after Istis's betrayal. Most of all, I do not think you have what it takes to do the unthinkable. There is a way to kill a god. You erase all trace of his existence. Memories, relics, followers. Time has beaten you. Your nature restrains you from taking that path of true infamy. To be determined. Assuredly, we won't be seeing each other again. What you see before you is just a ghost of a dead woman whose leaving with skies divide. Soon Matari will be nothing more than a memory, as is the case with her daughter. It was unwise for you to get attached. Those of us who walk this path must pay a price eventually. It is the law of the arena, and until I change that law, it is sacred. In a way, she still walks with you.
You have no idea how glad I am to see you. We need to leave before this whole place takes our only way home.
Time for you to leave. If you manage to escape, then goodbye. Peace be with you, Dragonborn.
What are you doing? Come on! We can't stay for much longer. This lift will take us to the base of the mountain. It'll be a straight run to the Diabolus.
What is it? I knew you couldn't stay away from me.
About time. I thought I was gonna have to leave you. The hell? When did you get back? Been busy setting up ambushes with your Ashen friends?
They're not my friends.
Then where were you this whole time?
Clearing the way. If it makes you feel any better, turns out you were right on just about everything. But we can discuss that later. Right now, you've got a ship to sail out of here, and fast.
Already on it. You two grab on tight. You thought the storm was bad? We're gonna have to pull out all the maneuvers before the sky swallows us whole. Ready? Lower the sails, boys. We're going home.
Unbound, Sky's divide retreats to the heavens. Its final trial overcome. Its hunger left unsated. But victory is ephemeral. Someday, it will resume its conquest, bearing the banner of the East, of home. But this war will not be your burden. The lineage of those that came before me will not be forgotten. From the first to the last, their legacy is now mine to adopt. There's no place for remorse. If it weren't for you, I would have never come to accept my purpose. When your journey ends, I'll be there to continue it. My brothers, my sisters, will be halted at any cost. I pledge my soul that I will see this through. It's time to reprise old roles and become the champion I need to be. That is my purpose in the arena.
Well, we're back off the coast of Dawnstar, as promised. Everyone's out acquiring supplies and chugging down fresh brew in celebration. Best do it while they can. We'll be out on the sea again soon. You'll want to talk to her before you head back to shore. She can fill you in on what we discussed while you were asleep. Meanwhile, I'll be in my office.